The following story is also available as a read-only version. Check the link in the description if you're interested. The Brass Citadel was constructed atop a natural rock formation in the Akras Basin. Containing rare strata stretching over millennia of the world's history, the rock was of some interest to geologists, but the stronghold that ended up being erected there was not a scientific base. It hosted a research institute, famous for its cutting-edge petrological analysis laboratory, but its primary purpose was as a military surveillance hub that ensured the security of the many caravans passing through the region. Scouting planes took off from here to make the rounds, returning every few hours to refuel and switch crew, but never idle. Even during the most brutal of sandstorms, the golden birds were flying, keeping an eye out for merchants in danger, signaling home for a rescue convoy to be deployed when necessary. Despite its remote location, in a few short years, the Brass Citadel had transformed the basin from a marauder-infested wasteland into a paradise of profitable trade routes. The structure itself had become an oasis, and merchants used its central spire to find their bearings all over the treacherous desert. For traders, the Brass Citadel was a beacon. For Komanu Velkas, it was the retirement he'd always wanted. Warm, sunny, not too stressful, and far away from the big cities, while still supplying their comforts. His office was located in the very tip of the main tower, just below the lookout cupola, with windows that gave a splendid all-round view of the Red Rock Desert. He was having a great day, sipping juniper tea while reading a novel from his personal library, when his secondant entered the room and bowed deeply. "Komanu Head, there is a situation that requires your attention," he said, not rising until Komanu was standing himself. "It's quite urgent." "I thank you, Oreose-bun. What is this regarding?" The old man had never been one for ceremony, but he indulged his junior's deference to proper protocol. "The Gatak Trade Commission has arrived early, and they've clashed with the royal convoy of the Rombe. I believe your presence might diffuse the situation in the central chamber before it escalates into violence," he explained. The youth had an expression of guilt on his face. It was as though the Gatak not respecting the schedule was somehow his fault. To Komanu's mind, that couldn't be further from the truth. Oreose Ketan was the person actually running the day-to-day operations of this place, making sure that the old war hero could spend his time enjoying the simple pleasures in life. "I am grateful that you called for me. I shall be right down, Oreose-bun," said Komanu, walking to his closet to don the uncomfortable items required for a full uniform. It was highly unorthodox not to be wearing them at all times, but after decades of service, Komanu felt entitled. His secondant bowed again and took the lift back down. Minutes later, Komanu stepped into the central hall. The room was ovoid, the bottom third filled with fresh water and inhabited by a variety of fish. A large platform was installed above it, connected to several corridors and doorways via bridges, and acting as the main hub for all foot traffic in the Brass Citadel. Oreose had not exaggerated the situation. On one side of the platform, the Gatak in their moss-coloured robes were shouting abuse, fists raised, menacingly twirling their lightweight blades. Their pale blue skin was covered in thin tattoos. Separated from them by a cordon of Komanu's own soldiers, who seemed to be a bit overwhelmed by the circumstances, the stocky Rombe jeered and beat their hairy chests. They were clad in golden jewellery, almost enough to make up for their lack of upper body clothing, and the domes of their bald heads were covered with ritual scars. After observing for a few moments and finding himself unable to determine the wronged party on the spot, Komanu drew in breath and collected himself. "Silence!" he shouted. the word resounding through the central hall like thunder. Even over all this raucous taunting, Komanu Vel'Kas' legendary voice was overwhelming. The Brass Citadel is a place of peace and commerce. I will not tolerate this type of insolence under my roof. Oreosebun, have these people separated and led to opposite ends of the compound. Their leaders shall be sent to the executive conference room to talk this out with me. Without waiting for a response, he brushed past the bowing Oreose and took the lift back up into the tower. Borao Tan Borao, the head of the Gatak Trade Commission, arrived first. His fine, aristocratic features were underlined by his silvery voice. He seemed perfectly courteous, incapable of partaking in a confrontation as vile as the one in the central hall. Yet, Komanu had seen him there. It pains me that such clarifying conversations are necessary, Komanu Kat, he said, his voice dripping with apology. Komanu found himself surprised at the fact that he was irritated by the Gatak's improper use of the suffix. He was implying they were informal peers, while, in actuality, Komanu was his host. It pains me as well, Boraodon, said Komanu, making a point of using the proper suffix, addressing Borao Tan Borao as a guest. But it is necessary. I cannot tolerate such levels of animosity in the Brass Citadel. Ah, you must excuse my impoliteness, Borao Tan Borao conceded. I am unfamiliar with the finer differentiations of your culture's language, Komanu Ta. Komanu did not believe him. Before he could reassure the man that all was well, the sigil master of the royal convoy entered the room. Hootin the Quiet, he was called, a barrel-chested man with emerald eyes and a long, well-groomed beard. Hootin wore a light tunic with a very low neckline as a symbol of his status. His stentorian voice boomed through the conference room as he greeted them. I hope you two have not already conspired, he said. It was clearly a joke, but Borao Tan Borao could not help but take offence. Already with the accusations. Frankly, I'm not sure why I must speak with this savage face to face. Being present at this location at the same time as him and his people is quite insulting. Which forces me to inquire as to why we were scheduled to be here at the same time in the first place, he said, not deigning to look at the Rombe. You arrived early and they had to leave a day late, Komanu explained. We are well aware of the rift between your peoples, but unfortunately we cannot always accommodate it. It is uncommon but not unheard of for Gatak and Rombe to share residence in the Brass Citadel, and never has it resulted in the threat of a brawl breaking out in the central hall. Please, Komanu Ta, you do not understand how disgusting the smell of Rombe is to my people, and 2 days is not enough time to air it out. Borao Tan Borao wrinkled his nose. I do not care what you do with mundane caravans, but we are the Trade Commission. We do not pass through here often, and we demand some respect. It is true, they only like the smell of their own, said Hootin the Quiet. That's why they all marry their siblings. The bloodline must be kept pure. At least we do not eat our dead. Borao Tan Borao spat. Ha! It is a great honor to consume the flesh of a worthy opponent after slaying them, the Rombe boasted. It is an act of appreciation for the challenge he has provided, and the things one has learned from fighting him. Enough, Komanu declared. I will not have this be a continuation of what happened in the central hall. I am here to help you lay your differences to rest, at least for the time being. Hootin puffed. As much as I look down upon this weakling, he said, pointing at the Gatak, I must agree that he's right about the importance of our caravans. It is acceptable for some lowly merchant to cross paths with the Gatak, but I am a confidant of the king. I travel across the great sand sea to negotiate trade with a distant land. The fees I pay are high, and the money this outpost will make because of my efforts is substantial. I expect special consideration to be taken in such a situation. As a matter of fact, our mission is to establish trade as well. The same argument should be made for us, Borao Tanborao agreed. Kumano had to stop himself from smiling. Special considerations were made. Had your sand ships not been carried by favorable winds and Houtin Don not run into unexpected problems, you would never have met, Kumano explained. Still, it is very tight scheduling. I concur. Such oversight should not happen with our peoples, Borao Tanborao added. And I take full responsibility for this, but for now, all you can do is coexist. The citadel is large, your peoples will not run into each other, I assure you. Besides, the royal convoy will be leaving tomorrow, then neither of you will have to tolerate the other. I suppose it is an acceptable compromise, said Borao Tanborao, flicking his fingers dismissively. And please do understand that this is a complaint against you personally, Komanu Ta. For the time being, yes, but this best not happen again, Houtin the Quiet decided. This is, indeed, your fault. A few minutes later, when Kumano stepped into his office, back to his juniper tea, he had a big smile on his face. Of all the weapons he had ever used, the prospect of profits was the most powerful. It could not only cut, but also mend. It was a welcome addition to his arsenal, and he had learned to use it as well as he could the pistol and the spear. If you liked this story and would like to hear more, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. A new short story is uploaded every Wednesday, and there will occasionally be another one in between if I find the time. Thank you very much for listening and have a great day.